Publicis Sapient was named among the Horizon 3 market leaders in the HFS Horizon's Generative Enterprise Services report. This report, the industry's first to compare global professional services firms for their services in this space, became our largest to date, with 35 global services and advisory companies compared. One of the reasons Publicis Sapient stood out for us is the way in which it leverages its integrated speed capabilities to help drive value for clients in their generative enterprise journeys. SPEED stands for strategy, product, experience, engineering, and data and AI. In each of this short series of HFS videocasts, I'm joined by a Publicis Sapient leader to explain the impact of one strand of the SPEED approach as applied to generative enterprise services. And in this edition, it's Rakesh Ravari, who looks after the second E in the series, the E for engineering of the SPEED approach. Hi, Rakesh.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me here.
You're very welcome. I'm wondering how your engineering team integrates generative AI in digital business transformation for your clients.
At Publicis Sapient, what we are doing is investing in making sure that our engineering maturity model is updated with the GenAI principles and ways of working, so that we making sure that we are not using the same old methods. We are upgrading our skills of the people in order to exhibit what we call 10x behaviors, specifically things like polyglot and multidimensional behaviors, which are essential in this era of GenAI when there is an overlap across the speed capabilities. So there needs to be some, how do you use the tools to sort of do this overlap? And lastly, how do you sort of use accelerators in order to step change or not solve the same problems again and again. So here we are using both extensively, especially in the area of AI, ML, and Gen AI solutions. Now, using all of this, we are able to create solutions rapidly in production for clients, right? It's not about experiments anymore. It's about how do you take it to production by new processes and new accelerators and the skills of the people in order to take advantage of this.
I'm hearing there's actually a bit of a slowdown in POCs and pilots because there's a speeding up of going into production. People are that's happening a little earlier than people expected. And when you're talking about the speed at which you're able to deliver to value, what has it taken to get all of those elements together so that an enterprise is comfortable going forward at that into production, where they weren't comfortable doing that maybe 6 months, a year ago?
You mentioned how businesses are reducing the POCs, and there is more push because of the promise what they're showing in POCs. There is a renewed push to make it into production faster. Now, if you want to go into production faster, as you said rightly, the risk is, okay, has these patterns been tested in production? Now, by using accelerators, we are actually addressing one of those problems. Because this accelerator has been used already in production in other solutions, we are reducing a risk a little bit because that same accelerator has been used. And since that accelerator has been used in multiple places, it is more explainable, if you can call it, right? Because we understand the behavior better. We understand how it works for different use cases. We know how it scales, how reliable it is, right? So using accelerators is a key thing for acceleration, right? It not only saves you just an effort, but it also gives you that risk mitigation strategy because it is proven. The process repeatability is also important. When I say process, it is what is the software development life cycle, right? How are you reviewing the code? How are you testing the code? How are you we are inventing, if you say, frameworks, scripts in terms of how do you test a AI solution, because AI test solution no longer has fixed inputs and fixed outputs. It has intents and possibilities. So how do you create a test framework which gives you a percentage confidence score rather than pass or fail? Right. So while you do it for one particular use case, that can be applied, the same pattern can be applied for other use cases. And that maturity of building AI solution helps in acceleration.
And so there's an awful lot of learning to be done to be able to get to a place where you can help your clients accelerate on these journeys. So How have you been able to bring your team along that journey?
We need to upskill our people, and we are already well underway in this journey. Like to say, I'll take a analogy and parallels, right? When cloud came in, right, we upskilled people on every engineer. Earlier, cloud and infrastructure used to be a thin sliver who used to handle infrastructure operations, whereas on-prem. Now, when the cloud came, cloud became more of a self-service tool more than that is what made it popular, because everyone can now go and create a machine. It is just not infrastructure's job. Every developer could create it. They could write pipelines to automate the whole stuff. The same way, with Gen AI and AI, right now the shift is happening from just the data science and the data engineering departments to every engineer. Every engineer is now able to use an AI solution and will use an AI solution, which is already, as you said, right, as a part of an accelerator or repeatable, or it's a SaaS service like the OpenAI APIs. We are also upskilling them on generative AI patterns, which is a part of our POV, right? In terms of how do you create architecture for generative content? How do you create architecture for generative interfaces? How do you create architecture for generative robots, which is basically like the next level of RPA? So, combining these patterns and then giving those skills to reimagine the solutions will equip the engineer to become from an engineer to an AI engineer.
If you were to pick one skill that is in most demand and shortest supply, what would it be?
The ability to re-architect solution using GenAI, right? Everyone is working on basic skills like prompt engineering and data engineering. Yes, they are all great. People will eventually learn it, but people are underestimating like how when cloud came, you needed to develop cloud native engineering. The same way, you need to develop skills of redesigning or rethinking your solutions using generative AI patterns.
Rakesh, thank you very much. That's really insightful. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dad.